Hello. So, it's the summertime, and aside from maybe January, it's probably the time of year when people are most concerned with weight loss, with diets, with, we showing a bit more flesh, the sun's out, we're going on holiday, it's socially desirable to be slender, and that's kind of what people seem to want. So, what diet is best for you to do? So, I'm just going to, as quickly as possible, I'm going to just go over the main diets that are out there, pros, cons, why they work, okay? So let's get straight in there. So we can start with, I talked about this in the last video, Slimming World and probably Weight Watchers we can include in there. And any sort of low-fat diet, like the Ornish diet was very low-fat, a little bit more extreme. But essentially fat, as I've talked about, is the fat, protein, carbohydrate. Fat's got the most calories. The easiest way to reduce calories is to reduce the amount of fat in your diet. And that is the basics of how they work. So the group setting thing is good. There's plenty of variety of foods, which is good. So for many people, it works. I mean, there's not much in the way of educating you on calories or macronutrients and all that kind of thing. And the people who lead it are not in any way trained in nutrition, other than that they've just completed Slimming World in the past or whichever. So it's a bit of a limitation. Physical activity as well, which is kind of not, it's there, but is very made a small thing. But of course, you could just do that on top of it, and then that would be great. So there's that one. Now we go to kind of the other end of the spectrum. We look at low carbohydrate diets, Atkins diet, and to an extent, paleo and Dukan diet. I'll touch on them a little bit more. But basically, so on the low fat diets, there you're not eating much in the way of like full fat dairy or nuts or too much oil, too much red meat, things like that is taking that out. Whereas on the lower carb, they tend to be more of them, but less of the rice, pasta, potatoes, bread kind of stuff. Now, there's tons of research papers on this stuff. It's been done to death. And when you do low carb versus low fat, what they find is after about 3 months, the low carb has lost a bit more weight. After a year, there's no real difference. The reason this is, you might have noticed this before, like sometimes over Christmas maybe, or you go on holiday, you eat a lot more bread and you eat maybe pasta, maybe it's just a lot of potato, wherever, maybe it's just cakes and ice cream, yeah? But if it's carbohydrate food, your body stores carbohydrate in a form called glycogen in your muscles and your liver. For every 1 gram of carbohydrate, you take almost 3 grams of water with it. And so you just hold on to a lot of water weight. And so you'll quickly maybe put on 5 pounds, 10 pounds in like a week. But then when you get back to your normal diet, you'll lose almost all of that within the preceding week. It's not fat, it's just water weight. And so when you eat less carbohydrate, you lose water weight, you lose weight. But it's not necessarily fat weight, which is really the aim of these things. Now, don't get me wrong. Because they exclude certain food groups, you will lose weight. Because you will reduce your calories as well. So all of these diets are just different methods of reducing calories. So if you like eating things like nuts and you like eating red meat, maybe avocados and cook them with lots of oil, then lower carb diets may be better for you. If you like your pastas and your breads and stuff, but you're not so keen on your red meats and your oils, then maybe the low fat would be better for you, or somewhere in between. Anyway, paleo diet, there's another one. It's quite kind of low carb because it reduces starches and stuff like that. Lots of fruits and vegetables and lots of meat, and could be pretty healthy diet. The main problem, it's pretty exclusive, isn't it? So you can't eat a lot of things on it, and that's the problem. That's the problem with most of these. But there's so many foods that you can't eat on it that's the problem. I used to promote it largely, and I do think it's quite a healthy diet. But if there's no sustainability there, there's no point. 5-2 diet, fasting diet, intermittent fasting. When they get rats or they get monkeys and they feed them one day and don't feed them the next day and feed them one day and don't feed them the next day, they lose weight because they've reduced calories. But then when you study animals, you can look over their whole lifespans. They don't live as long as us. They live longer, they get less cancer, they get less heart disease, less cell proliferation. Great. Less diabetes, blood pressure's down, recover from heart attacks better. Brilliant. The research in humans is limited, but it would appear that intermittent fasting could be healthy. Now, probably healthy for us as well, but we live in probably the Western world. If you're watching this, we have lunchtime, breakfast, with food everywhere, friends eating food. family. Is it practical? That's the problem. It's probably good, but can you really do it? Probably not. Again, it just reduces calories. So all these diets, they just either you're not eating as often, or you're not eating certain foods, but they all just reduce calories, and that's all it is. So you could count calories. That can work too. But again, there's limitations. Are you going to count calories to the day you die? Do you want to spend all your time being that anal about it? It's limited. So you can probably pick a diet. I mean, they'll all work if you stick to them. But can you keep it up? And I've talked about this before, and I just want to end with the caveat, really, of, look, say take rats when they starve a rat and then they let it eat what it wants. What happens is it starves itself. It doesn't lose fat cells. There's no evidence, to my knowledge, that we can lose fat cells. So, but all that happens is the fat cells shrink when it diets. Okay, and you say, okay, rat, you could eat again, which is effectively what most people do when they don't diet. What we see is immediately the number of fat cells increase. So now you've got more fat cells than before you start the diet. Then the rat will continue to eat until all those fat cells are full. And now you have a heavier rat than you had before you started. And this is what happens as human beings. And there's lots of research saying that on and off diets equals long-term weight gain. So what do? You stop diet. Honestly, dieting really, generally, on and off dieting harms you. And I have no doubt about that. So you just need to adapt your lifestyle to what you can stick to. Now, if you can stick to one of these diets forever and it works really well for you, then you crack on. Go for it. But you need to find something that you can stick to. That's what you need to find. You can stick to it. And if it's more moderate and the weight loss is slower, that's fine. If you can stick to it, it'll work. If you just want to look good in your bikini in 6 weeks' time, and after that you don't care, then go ahead and starve yourself. But long term, you're probably doing yourself more harm than good. Hope that was useful, and I'll see you for another video soon.